now to domestic politics, because a new poll suggests that the Liberal Democrat and Green voters would vote for Labour in order to prevent Nigel Farage from entering Downing Street at the next general election. The huge story, tactical voting. One man who's been talking about this for a long time is my next guest. That's the CEO of Electoral Calculus, Martin.
Good day to you all and welcome back to the British Report. If you thought the political earthquake of 2024 was a one-off event, I suggest you hold on to your hats, because Nigel Farage has just walked into 2026 and effectively declared the old guard dead. We are not just talking about a shift in the polls, we are talking about a total systemic collapse of the two-party duopoly. Farage has finally confessed his true endgame, and it is a vision that spells absolute disaster for Sir Keir Starmer's struggling administration. While Labour is busy trying to figure out how to manage a shrinking membership and a plummeting approval rating, Reform UK is operating like a high-velocity steamroller. This isn't a protest movement anymore. It is an insurgent government in waiting that has just overtaken the governing party in the most crucial metric of all, raw grassroots power. Quick favour, if you are loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It is free. It takes a second and means the world to us. Thanks if you did. Now back to the show. Let us start with the bombshell numbers that have sent shockwaves through the corridors of Whitehall. As we kick off 2026, Reform UK has achieved the unthinkable. Nigel Farage's party now officially boasts over 268,000 paid-up members. To put that in perspective, reports suggest that Labour's activist base has shriveled under Keir Starmer's leadership to fewer than 250,000.3. Think about that for a second. A party that was essentially a start-up 7 years ago now has more boots on the ground than the century-old Labour Party. Farage has basically confessed that his goal was never just to influence the Tories from the sidelines, it was to replace the entire establishment, starting with the very machinery of political engagement. And the momentum isn't just in the membership fees. Reform UK has now topped 175 consecutive opinion polls with an average lead of 10 points over all other parties. If these figures were replicated in a general election tomorrow, we wouldn't be looking at a hung parliament or a narrow win. We would be looking at a crushing double-digit parliamentary majority for Reform. It is the political equivalent of a local pub team suddenly winning the Premier League, while the traditional giants are still arguing over who gets to wear the captain's armband. Starmer is presiding over a party that is literally shrinking in his hands, while Farage is building a vote-winning machine that refuses to stop. But numbers on a spreadsheet are one thing. Winning actual power on the ground is where the real confession of Reform's strength lies.
The words that Sarah Pochin used in response to a caller into talk radio on Saturday morning were without ugly, and taken on their own, could be read to be very, very unpleasant indeed. I am unhappy with what she has done. I can't underestimate that, and she fully knows how I feel. However, it was in the broader context of DEI madness in the advertising industry, something which anybody with half a brain can recognise has been going on since about 2021. So I understand the basic point, but the way she put it, the way she worded it, was wrong and was ugly. And if I thought that the intention behind it was racist, but I would have taken a lot more action than I have to date. And that is because I don't.
If you want to know why the Labour front bench is looking so pale lately, you only need to look at the results of the 2025 municipal contests. Last May, Reform UK didn't just participate, they performed a full-scale demolition of the local government map. They won a staggering 677 seats and took outright control of 10 local authorities. While the Conservatives and Labour were busy jointly losing nearly 900 seats, Farage was busy picking up the keys to town halls across the country. We are talking about places like Lincolnshire, Derbyshire, and even a historic win in Runcorn and Helsby, where Reform overturned a 14,000-vote Labour majority in a parliamentary by-election. The myth that Reform is only a northern protest or a disgruntled Tory phenomenon has been shattered. Just look at the recent triumphs in West Lothian, Scotland, and Bromley in London. When Liam Conlon, a local Labour MP in London, warns his activists that the election of a Reform councillor in Bromley marks the start of a new trend, you know the panic is real. There is no longer a Farage exclusion zone. From the Scottish lowlands to the heart of the London boroughs, the Reform surge is cross-cutting traditional class and regional lines. It is a national movement that has finally found its feet, and it is stepping directly on the toes of the Labour establishment. So how did we get here? How did a Prime Minister with a massive majority manage to become the greatest recruiting sergeant for his own worst enemy? The irony of the situation is that Sir Keir Starmer is the most effective propagandist Nigel Farage has ever had. It is the Starmer government's unique blend of incompetence, cowardice and rigid dogma that has acted as a turbocharger for reform. Every time the cabinet dreams up a new fiasco, like spending millions on luxury hotel accommodation for illegal immigrants while British pensioners are told to tighten their belts, another 1,000 people sign up for a reform membership. It is a textbook case of a government that has total contempt for Britain's democracy, identity and heritage. Take the recent fawning welcome given to Alaa Abdel Fattah, the Egyptian radical who was recently brought to the UK. While the government played it up as a humanitarian triumph, the public saw the resurfaced posts calling British people dogs and monkeys and urging the burning down of Downing Street. It is this perceived obsession with fringe issues and woke priorities that has convinced the public that the ruling elite simply do not like the country they are supposed to lead. People are yearning for a party that prefers genuine equality to forced cultural diversity and a police force that tackles real crime rather than monitoring non-crime hate incidents on X. Farage has confessed that his strategy is simply to stand where the people are, while Starmer remains trapped in the Westminster bubble. But let us be clear, the road to a reform government isn't just a downhill stroll. The establishment still has a few tricks up its sleeve to stop the Farage juggernaut.
I will be, with my colleagues, meeting the Speaker this evening. I will put these points to him. I know that he himself is very keen to re-establish Parliament at the centre of our national debate in this country. And I will tomorrow write to Dame Karen Bradley, the chair of the Home Affairs Committee, suggesting a subcommittee is set up. And yes, let's broaden it to a commission and let's get those from the House of Lords who understand this subject involved as well. And perhaps for many people, difficult to understand phenomenon. The advantages of this, well, the first one is it can be done incredibly quickly. The second of this is it'll take place in what we still know as the mother of parliaments and perhaps re-establish some trust in the institution. And it will happen in the full glare of media. And it won't take years to conclude. It will take many weeks. It might take a couple of months, but so be it. And it will have the power to put in the Palace of Westminster those who are suspected of colluding in the cover-up of one of the most shameful stories in the history of our island.
Nigel Farage is aiming for something that hasn't been achieved in a century, breaking the two-party duopoly. The last time this happened was when Labour superseded the Liberal Party in the early 1920s. Others have tried and failed. Remember the Social Democratic Party in the 1980s? They had the popular support, but they couldn't translate it into seats because of our first-past-the-post voting system. This same bias could still work against reform, especially if the parties of the left unite in a desperate strategy of tactical voting. And then there is the inevitable campaign of character assassination. We are already seeing the moth-eaten accusations of bigotry from Farage's school days being trotted out again. The left is desperate to destroy his leadership because they know his victory would spell their absolute doom. But as Reform MP Lee Anderson recently pointed out, the more smears and lies they throw, the stronger reform gets. The public has become immune to the "everyone I don't like is a fascist" rhetoric. They see through the pearl-clutching and recognise it for what it is, the terrified shriek of a political class that is losing its grip on power. As we move through 2026, the stakes could not be higher. With the devolved Assembly elections in Scotland and Wales on the horizon, Farage has a golden opportunity to consolidate this political ascendancy. The confession is out. Nigel Farage isn't just looking for a few seats in Parliament, he is looking to reset the entire British state. He has convinced a massive swathe of the public that reform isn't just an alternative, but a credible replacement. In Scotland, reform is now polling as the second force ahead of Labour. In Wales, they are nipping at the heels of Plaid Cymru. The era of Starmer's landslide stability is over, replaced by a year of volatility where every council by-election feels like a referendum on the government's survival. The end of the Starmer era may not come at the next general election. It is happening right now, seat by seat, member by member, and poll by poll. When a party with 5 MPs out-organises and out-polls the government of the day, the writing isn't just on the wall, it is being shouted from the rooftops. Nigel Farage has built his machine and he is finally ready to let it loose on an establishment that never saw him coming. The British Report will be here to document every moment of this historic realignment. Thank you for watching.